cool. So let's do this again. Welcome, everybody.
We are here, John Devine.
We made it, dude. We friggin' did it.
After all these years.
Yeah, it's been...
Well,
yeah.
been a couple of years.
Well, it feels like years. Definitely, I wanted to do something like this for a while.
Yep.
And when we got into this office space, I told Al, I was like, we need to do this, right? So for those of you guys who don't know us, my name is John Devine.
My name is Patrick Soldi.
We are two members of Alive Events. We're a premier entertainment company located in the tri-state area of New York and New Jersey. We primarily handle all different types of events, from bar and bat mitzvahs to weddings to corporate events to any life celebration that you could think of. And this podcast is essentially for us to educate, entertain, answer questions, and talk about some things that I think a lot of people don't talk about enough, especially when they're talking about planning an event or like trying to figure out how they're going to throw an event, right?
Yeah.
And you don't know until you know. So I always say that talking to professionals who are in it, like us, is always going to help our clients. So that's essentially what this is. This is for people who just want to be entertained, want to learn about what we do, want some help or guidance in their planning and preparations of their upcoming live event. And quite frankly, it's just for us to kind of shoot the bull, you know? And
What he said.
What exactly what
Literally,
I said.
Every single word.
So yeah, man. So I think, you know, not everybody knows us, especially if they're, you know, new to our platform.
Right.
So why don't you tell me a little bit about you, Patrick? Who are you?
So who am I? That is the age-old question. No, just kidding. So, in short, I'm an MC, Master of Ceremonies. I work with Alive Events. I've been doing this for 10 years, actually, an MC.
Wow.
I'm not a DJ, funny enough. I am just solely an MC, and I take pride in that. I'm responsible for just giving your guests an amazing time. I started this about 10 years ago. Like I said, I've been doing this for 10 years, and I was a Sweet 16 dancer, funny enough. And
Where are we all?
Where are we all?
Yeah.
In Staten, Italy. And the reason why I got into this, honestly, was just because I wanted to get invited to parties, actually. I really wanted to get invited to the Sweet 16s, and I wasn't cool enough to get invited to the Sweet 16s. And so I worked for a company instead, and I started dancing at these parties. It was great. You know, I'm 16 years old, meeting girls. It was fantastic. It was great. Until I became like 18, 19, I'm like, okay, I can't keep dancing at these parties anymore. It's a little weird. But give me the microphone and let me just cover more of the party now, as opposed to just dancing. And I, again, set sail from there, emceeing events since then.
Yeah.
So that's who I am in a nutshell in terms of in this industry.
On this
How I
platform.
got started
too. Yeah,
on
that's
this
cool.
platform specifically.
So you chose emceeing primarily because you felt like you graduated out of being a dancer, essentially, or a motivated party. But we label them as party motivators.
Party motivators,
'Cause I
dance
feel like
motivators.
dancers are just kind of like, you know, when we dance. No,
Right. I'm engaging.
More, you're engaging with the couples, the crowd,
Yeah.
and you kind of felt like you graduated from that. Right? Was it because you feel as if like you accomplished everything you needed to accomplish, or you just wanted to challenge yourself?
It was just weird being 19 dancing with 16-year-old girls.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
You know, I was like, okay, I
that's
got to
fair
stop this.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
But I said, give me the microphone, because I still loved entertaining parties, and I still loved working with the adults and like the little kids and like, you know, everyone, and making sure everyone was happy. So it became more of that. And it was good money. It was good weekend work. So I saw it really though as just a job in the beginning of my career, just something to do.
Where do you think it transitioned for you, where it became a full-time thing?
I started getting bored of doing parties and feeling that they were the same party every single time.
Right, yeah,
I
know that
felt
feeling.
like I was memorized. I had a script in front of me, not actually literally, but in my mind, and I would go, okay, this is the moment where I say this word and that word. And I'm like, oh man, I feel like a robot. This isn't fun.
Yeah, that's where. Well, actually, I feel like that's a lot of things in life. When you do something so many times, now it becomes redundant and it's boring. It's a good word to put it, but I feel like boring in our industry doesn't exist because, like, it's trust me, people. When you do what we do, some of the stuff you see is. Let's put it this way: Maury would be shocked. That's how insane some of the things we've seen in the past.
Who's Maury?
Oh God.
Yeah. Sorry, representing
terrible.
Gen Z over here.
Oh, you're terrible.
Yep.
That's we're
Millennials, you got to help me out.
You're gonna move on from that one.
I'm still gonna look him up, Maury.
I'm John Devine. I'm in my 20th year of doing this. I'm 33 years old. I've been doing it since pretty much I was like 13. And when I say that, it's kind of like a eye-opening thing for me because 20 years doesn't feel like it. I've gone through so many different companies, parties, experiences, like you name the type of event for a life celebration, I've most likely done it to some capacity. And I got into it because I was a weird kid. Funny enough that you said it. You're like, I'm a weird kid. DJing for me was one of the first ways that I was successfully able to express myself. Because one of the things I was actually into was I was a singer terribly. I was a singer. So
I know this story.
So the thing about me, it's not something that a lot of people know about me, is that I always wanted to entertain. Since I was a kid, my mom was always like, you wanted attention. You always entertained people in any way you possibly could, whether it's what I learned from a karate lesson to, a trick I learned on a basketball court, whatever it could be, anything I thought was to gain attention. And entertaining people was the first way I realized was going to happen. And then I just loved performing. And then singing, I was like, I love to sing. And it all changed for me when I went to, I'm pretty sure it was Hershey Park. I'm not entirely sure. It could have been a different one, but I'm 99% it was Hershey Park. And back then, they had something called CDs, Patrick. Okay. CDs, compact discs. This was where millennials were able to store music.
Wow.
I know. You had to buy them too, which was
crazy.
Insane. So then they had this little karaoke booth thing where you could kind of be like you could be your own superstar for a little while, and you can go in and record a track. And I remember I was like, okay, I love to sing. I was always performing. I was singing for other people, and everybody was like, oh, you're great. You're amazing. So I decided to jump in that booth, and I sang Jesse McCartney's version of I Want Candy.
How's that go, John? Can you sing?
I'm not doing that.
Okay.
To me. No, it was. So I sang it in, and then one of the things you could do if you wanted them to, you could actually play back your recording on their speakers where everybody in the park in the vicinity could hear you. And I was like, yeah, let's show everybody what I got. And I listened to it for the first time and I heard myself sing. And immediately my singing career had ended.
Management was like, we can't do that speaker thing anymore.
It was over. And the only person cheering was my father, and I think it was to make it not make me feel bad. And I remember for a hot second, I was like, "Oh, I had French fries earlier. That was the reason why I sound so bad." No, I was just bad. So then DJing became my aha moment of like, okay, this feels right. This was my way of expressing myself to get people to enjoy being entertained by me, and I just fell in love with it. And I fell in love with it. I have friends. I think it was my cousin's Sweet 16. And I was like, remember watching the DJ, and I just was like mesmerized. I was like, what is this guy doing exactly? And I'm like, I was like, he's like, but he wasn't pressing buttons. He actually had turntables. This is actually when he was using vinyl. And I was like, okay, I can get into this. I can get down with this. And I'm like, okay, let's learn this stuff. Mm-hmm. And ever since then, my sole goal was to make parties epic. Like, get invited to parties, be the guy who makes the party epic, be the entertainer. That was me. And I've been doing it ever since. And it was one of those things where I got into weddings, and I was a Sweet 16 party motivator. I went into MCing, and I went through the whole echelon of the ladder of growth, if you will. And that was, to me, like, I knew I wanted to do entertainment. And when I was in college, it was like, okay, that was like, I've been making money doing this for already at that time, I think like 7 years. I was like, if this isn't my career choice, I don't know what is. So, that's my story. And now, we're here and we primarily focus on private events. And I love doing weddings. I love doing all types of entertainment for people who are having life celebrations. I love being the catalyst for being that epic party motivator for everybody in attendance, right? That's my big thing. Like, get people amped up, excited, ramped up, like have them leave there like, yo, that was dope. Like, that's
thanks
my
to you
thing.
too.
Yeah, that's my thing. I want the bragging rights.
Yeah.
I'm selfish.
Yeah.
I'm selfish.
Yeah, you have to have that though. it makes me think of comedians who, I don't want to get too off the track here, but comedians who are just really funny people, and then people who choose to be stand-up comedians. What's the difference? They love that performance aspect. But there are some funny people who don't need that performance aspect.
They appreciate the art of it too.
And and same thing with this DJing is like, you could just mix at your house, but you love that like validation because it makes you feel good that like people going like, oh my God, you're awesome. It's like, yeah, I am. We're performers.
Well, the pride, the performance thing
Entertainers.
is big, but also it's a truth about myself. A truth about myself is like I am the best version of myself when I'm performing. When I'm DJing, people who know me best will literally say that's John. I'm smiling, I'm dancing, I'm singing along with the crowd. I get excited before a transition that I believe that nobody else is expecting, that I know is going to create that moment. Like that is just so you guys know, that is catnip for DJs. When the crowd goes ooh or ah or like,
what do they call it? You just smelt a fart
oh
face?
yeah, that's my thing. I'm like, oh, when people do that, I smell shit face. Like
I do that to John when I'm emceeing and he's behind me and I hear a mix. I turn to him. I go,
yeah. When you do that,
did you just fart?
Yeah, like when you make that face or when you see somebody makes that face, that's when you know you did an epic transition, an epic like.
It's so good.
Mix.
Where you're like,
Exactly. Yeah. So to me, it was like always about. It was always about performing. I grew a love for it, and I'm like, this is where I want to make my bones. This is where I want to lay down the land, let people know this is what I do. This is what I do great, and I want to keep it that way. And I've been doing it ever since, man. And I absolutely love it. And I think that one of the things that we always talk about, especially behind closed doors, is the perception of a DJ now has dramatically changed from its original origins. And I wanted to talk about that too, because I feel like you're 26.
I'm 26 years old.
Okay.
26 anni.
Yeah, I'm 33. So even though we're only like 7 years apart, my peers had a very different perception of DJs up until like probably around the 2010s.
Okay.
Your generation, I feel like, got into like understanding what a DJ does later, and I feel like there's a massive difference in the shift of what a DJ is perceived to be. And I want to hear your point of view of what you think your peers, if you will, think of a DJ. Or better question I should ask is, do you think the DJ has been devalued by your generation due to technical advancements or like necessity? Like, what do you think people think a DJ does or is?
I think so. I think, and not to their discredit totally, because I think we talked about this too, that it's also part of the DJ's fault for portraying that poor image. But let's not get into that yet. I think the value of a DJ has been diminished due to the advent of more technology, not the advent of technology, but more so, keep making it easier for anyone to pick up a controller and start mixing. There are certain features that allow it, which means it makes it less of a niche skill and a well-respected skill, which makes the DJs who are true professionals grouped into the same DJs that are not professionals. So I think my generation, because we've been so exposed to, these funny memes of like, what's that video of that girl that goes, I don't even understand what the DJ does. Yeah. Right? But those are videos that, of course, they spread across the globe.
Yeah.
And that becomes the narrative of what a DJ really does. He presses buttons. And then sometimes there are videos of DJs who are not actually hooked up to the controller. There's no power.
Those are my favorite videos.
They're right.
The videos of like where it's like it's some kind of ethnic show. Like it's like it's like a Spanish station or something like that, and the DJ has a setup where there's no wires plugged in, and the guy's like jamming out and like doing all this stuff, and it has nothing to do with what's actually happening.
My
with the music.
friends and the kids, they're seeing that stuff. So when I say, "Hey, I'm an entertainment company. Oh, we have DJs." Oh, okay. Or I even hear when people are looking for DJs for their parties, they're like, I'm not going to go with you guys. It's not that big of a deal. I'm just going to go with my friend who, does it on the side. So I don't think they prioritize, you know what I'm saying? I don't think they prioritize DJs as much.
I think that the priority of DJs, you mentioned the barrier to entry is low.
It's not their fault. It's not people like, just poorly
it is low.
understanding us.
So like, I don't want to get on my high horse, but when I first started, CDs vinyl and actual downloading music was really the only way you could actually obtain music. That was number one. And also the gear and learning there was no aid of a computer or technology to help you with the transitions or even the ability to create playlists.
Yeah.
Like nowadays you could generate an entire playlist with AI. But seriously,
Yep.
it's a beautiful tool if you know how to use it properly.
Correct.
But back then, the DJ's responsibility was to create the atmosphere that people would engage in a celebration that really took a lot of trial and error, and it took a lot of studying from people above you. Now, because of the blessings of the internet, you can kind of jump that a little bit. And also because the barrier to entry to learn the quote unquote art form of DJing, which is typically mixing music seamlessly, right? That has become incredibly easy as opposed to what it was back in the 90s and the 80s and using vinyl, and it's night and day. But also it has to come down to understanding the professionalism of what entertainers do. And you touched upon this, is that a lot of entertainers do a very bad job of presenting themselves as professionals.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Because I think a lot of DJs have looked at DJing starting as a hobby or a passion project that they graduated from, and then they got into the concept of like, I can make money doing this, and then they never took professional courses or treated it like a professional business. So they kind of got into like this attitude of like, oh, my shit don't stink. Like I am the way I am, and I'm just a dope DJ. Like, take it or leave it. And believe it or not, that's actually translated to people's perception of a DJ as being a tool bag.
Yep.
Like
stubborn, doesn't work with,
Right.
not a team player.
right, and also flamboyant. Like
Yeah.
I think like people view DJs as the ones that are portrayed on like TV that are just
Corny. That's what you mean
Very
by flamboyant? That's what you mean by, because I'm flamboyant.
Yeah, I mean like you are flamboyant. No, but what I mean by that is like okay. As controversial as this is, when you add reality stars become DJs, that became the butt of the joke.
Yeah.
That's it's not serious. It's not a serious
Shaquille
thing.
O'Neal, Paris Hilton.
Right. But what's funny is that those people will actually
Ferrell.
tell you that. Well, let me rephrase that. Those who are dedicated to it will actually
Correct.
tell you the real art form of it and how important it is for DJs. And it's so sad that the overall perception of a DJ is the butt of the music industry.
Correct.
When matter of fact, the history of the DJ was the most important. DJs were the ones who literally would quote unquote break records. Their job was to actually present new tracks to the public.
They were
test it.
they were forward.
Right. They were the ones that test it. And nowadays it's kind of like, the DJ is just like my neighbor. Who's just like, oh, my best friend's son picked up a controller and I'm having him DJ my daughter's wedding because he played my backyard party. He crushed it.
Yep. And he brings a 6-foot table, wires all over the place, no facade, has his controller.
So I will say, I think less and less matters to people about the aesthetics, believe it or not. I think it's more about, the one good thing about technology is like people know a bad DJ if they just play bad music.
That's true.
Right?
That's true.
I think that's one of the very few good things that's come out of the advancement of the technology that you spoke about is that people are like, okay, we now know that this is a good DJ because they play dope music, and the result of him or her playing music is this, right?
Okay.
Also, TikTok and Reels has brought out the art form a little bit and made it a public knowledge, which is cool, dude. Like back in the day, like nobody gave a crap if you could scratch or you could do this, and all of a sudden now people are realizing like, oh, that wordplay is dope, or that mashup is dope, or like blending these two tracks together is dope, right? And all of a sudden that actually became popular. So there are benefits to it.
That's true.
But in what we do, very different, and it actually coincides with event planning. It coincides with working in a professional manner with other vendors that you trust for your major life celebration, no matter what it is. And I think that a lot of DJs are just not equipped with that. They're not good at that. And it's a big issue.
True.
And I really think that is something that it needs to be educated, that you're not just trusting a 16-year-old DJ who's played only backyard parties or in their basement
Yep.
to handle a major life celebration because you have no idea what you're getting yourself into.
Correct.
Like you really, or they don't know what they're getting themselves into. They haven't learned or have the wisdom to take on that responsibility of a very important event. And I think that that is the misconception that most people have. Just because they can play music, they can handle this. No, they can't. They cannot. Like we talked about this earlier, actually. We talked about the overall budget for a wedding is, on average in the United States, is $40,000 or more.
Bodie.
Big 40. So imagine this, right? Let's just say you hire a DJ for $400
Okay.
for your wedding. That's going to cost you $40,000 to celebrate. On average, your reception to entertain your guests is 5 to 6 hours, give or take. And that 5 or 6 hours is the only part that your guests get to enjoy. Because
Correct.
you as bride and groom, right, the people getting married, I should say,
The entire day.
have the entire day to enjoy.
Correct.
It's your day.
Correct.
It's a beautiful day. No matter what happens, is really going to be a memorable experience for
Correct.
you. But the people in attendance really only get the opportunity to celebrate, again, 5 or 6 hours. So if you're spending $40,000, you're accounting for 1% of your budget to properly engage, entertain, and give a great experience for 99% of your day for your
The
guests.
success of,
That's
90,
big.
huge percent of the success of your event is, and I'm talking about the success and enjoyment of your event, obviously entertainment wise, but fun, right? Creating that is
Yeah.
the DJ, the entertainment, we should say.
Yeah.
And if you're rolling the dice on that,
Well,
might as well just take the 40 grand and just put it into the toilet and flush it.
you've attended a wedding.
Correct.
Attended a wedding. And I know for a fact there's at least one wedding where you turned away and like, this sucks.
I remember, and it's so funny being an MC and then finally going to events, because I really look at the event from an MC standpoint and noticing why it's so frustrating when the MC talks too much. We're going to get into that all later.
Yeah.
But I was like, I just want to hear the singer. I want to hear Cascada. I want to hear Pitbull. I want to hear Neo. I don't want to hear you, Michael. Right? Michael. Like, and it was so annoying to just hear that constantly. And it goes to show, and we're going to get into this later, why also people are kind of scared to hire entertainment companies now, and they're very fearful of even having like an MC because they don't want that person talking too much. There are some companies, John, that I see on Instagram that actually market themselves as minimal announcements on in their bios.
Right.
That's a thing.
Right.
And it's like, wow, that's what it's come to.
Well, it's primarily because one of the number one complaints of what can ruin a wedding is when somebody overdoes it on the microphone.
Yeah.
Like some of the nightmare stories that we hear from our clients or people who have attended to weddings that the MC didn't shut up, or he kept screaming in the mic, or he thought he was a rapper, or he, like, you name it. Like there are tons of stuff, tons of reasons. And we understand the differences between the responsibilities of an MC versus the DJ and how to take those two professions and mold them perfectly. And it's important for people to understand that there are two different aspects of that. You have your MC and you have your DJ, and they can be two different people.
Yep.
Which is another thing we hear about. People always like, oh, do I need two people? Do I just have a DJ who makes announcements? Like, make no mistake, there's a massive difference between the two.
Correct.
And when you're running in a primary event like a wedding, having professionals who know what they're doing on a microphone can epically transform your event.
Yep.
Okay. And you're primarily an MC. Your only job is to be a master of ceremonies.
MC.
So I want you to describe to the people what the differences are of an MC versus like what they believe making an announcement is. Because I think that's the biggest thing. People are like, oh, it's just somebody makes announcements. No.
That's the number one thing they don't just do.
Yeah.
And if it is, well, then that's why they're making too many announcements, and that's why people are shying away from MCs. Because
they got nothing to do.
Because they have nothing to do. And they think, and I think it's obviously I did this when I was an amateur and back in my day, where I would talk. I'd try to overcompensate for talking a lot because I felt when I'm not talking, I'm not doing my job.
Right.
I think we're in a culture, in a country too, where economically and in the business world and in life, the more work you put into something, the more you contribute, the more hard work you're good, the more your hands are dirty, like you're putting in effort, that means you're going to get something in return, where less is more in this industry.
Correct.
Right? Especially when performing as an MC. So what does an MC do, a master of ceremonies? They are a master of every ceremonial aspect or formality of your life celebration. So they're actually really there for, of course, dancing to hype up the crowd, but for the formalities, right?
Yeah.
To make sure that there's a flow to your event. A proper flow, as if they were a director for a film, making sure that there are peaks and valleys. You ever watch a movie and there's some lull points in the night, in the movie? Well, those are actually important because without those, there wouldn't be any climactic or suspenseful moments in your movie. Same thing with a private event.
Moves the plot along.
Yeah, that's what I'm there to do as an MC. So when people say, "Oh, you just makes announcements," yeah, that's maybe 5% of what I do.
I think that people ultimately see as an MC as the guy who screams on the mic because there's so many bad MCs. Look, we have gone through actual training and seminars. And believe it or not, there are actual seminars, workshops, and proper training, vigorous training that allows you to become a professional MC. And master of ceremonies, you could also relate to show hosts. Like if you watch the Grammys, if you watch the Oscars, if you watch anything like that, the host of that event is an MC. And by definition, what we do, it's incredibly important to relay that message to the people that are hiring us because we are officially coordinating the event on your behalf. So you don't have to worry about anything else. Our job is to be the maestro, if you will.
Yeah.
Coordinate the event with all the vendors, the maitre d', the venue, you as guests. Like, that's our job. It's also to invigorate, enhance the experience for the guests, right?
Get people excited.
Without overdoing it.
Yep.
Right? And I think that sometimes people tend to forget that it's okay to let loose. And sometimes the MC has to be that person to show them how to let loose.
Yeah.
That's okay too, as long as it's not overbearing.
Well, that's actually a good point you made. It depends on the event. Because there's some, it's called, matching energy. It's not like something, academics have termed or coined, but you're matching energies where there's some events where weddings, I hardly talk during dance sets. I don't need to. Look at the crowd. Look at the party. They don't need me. I'm good. If anything, I'll annoy them if I keep talking. But there are some crowds that need a bit of a pushing, right? Or I don't want to use pushing. They need more of an incentive, permission, excitement. They need to be moved emotionally, motivated to dance. It really just depends on the crowd. So my job changes based on the event itself, which you already mentioned.
Which I also want to make abundantly clear. You're primarily an MC.
Yeah, only an MC.
I am primarily
a
a DJ.
Yeah.
But I'm actually one of the few DJs that knows how to
MC.
Actually perform at a wedding as a one-man entertainer. Now, when I say one-man entertainer, I don't do a wedding by myself. That's a misconception.
Right.
I have an assistant that I bring with me that when it's my job to actually MC certain portions of the event, when I have to talk to the maitre d', when I have to prep everybody for introductions, when I have to actually do the introductions, or if I have to do toasts or anything of that nature that requires formalities and for me to step away from the booth, my assistant has the basic fundamentals of DJing so they can coordinate and play the music while I can step away from the booth. And that's incredibly vital because my job as a DJ kind of puts me behind the booth 90% of the night. So another benefit of being an MC, if you have a two-man job, is that the MC could also be the eyes that the DJ can have in one location. So you can go out in the back of the room and see how people are responding to certain tracks that I can't see. And that's also one of the things that you report. And I know that you know that some DJs can't do too much juggling, so your job is to help them, and that's another big portion. But when you do it as long as I have, and you have really done the research and
there's like a
it's one of the things where I get to know my couples to the point where it's like we see eye to eye on the execution of your vision, and if I'm able to do my job effectively, I don't necessarily need somebody else to do it for me. I know everything I have to do to execute that job. And again, if I do have to leave the booth, my assistant allows me to grab the mic, go out, grab people, what have you, to enhance the celebration. But there are two different things there. And when people ask us like, oh, should I have a 2-man job or a 1-man job? Well, number one, whoever you're speaking to, whether it's us or another company, they got to have proof in the pudding. Like, don't trust word. My biggest thing with people is when you do your research, demand proof. Yep. Demand videos, demand mixes, demand reviews, demand anything you possibly can to at least create a solid foundation to know that the person you're speaking with does what they say. Because too many people that are quote unquote DJs kind of do the fake it till you make it thing. And as a consumer, that's very hard to figure out because you don't know. Yeah. Like, how do you, like, okay, they make a dope SoundCloud mix. Okay. Well, is that SoundCloud mix going to pertain to the people that are going to attend your wedding?
I know.
That's a big thing.
I know. It's crazy.
It's like a really big thing. People don't think like that.
Just because you liked the mix too doesn't mean. Well, we can get that.
Well, no, that's actually something I wanted to kind of talk about is why people don't dance at weddings. Like, you know, sometimes people make a vital mistake of thinking that everybody parties like you do, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've abandoned that idea because no one parties like I do. It's when music starts, I get up there. No matter whose party it is, and I am the exception, which is why I'm in this industry. Yeah. But no one wants to be the first to get up on the dance floor. I think also people want to. We're conforming. We're pro-social. We're conforming creatures. So we conform to what the vibe and the atmosphere is. And when you have a party that's starting off a little dead, or at least there's only a few people on the dance floor, our conforming part of our mind's like, ooh. Not everyone's doing what they're doing. I'm not going to follow.
Do you think that social pressure plays that much of a role in regards to when people dance or not? Like if they see an empty dance floor, they're less likely to go up there.
That's part of it. That's not all it. Right. I think there's also from the talent, the entertainer. If this entertainer is not playing a song that really resonates with that person sitting down right now, they're not going to get up.
Yeah.
I've seen that before where John, we've done parties and we're like, can't figure out this table right here. And then you play something and all of a sudden they go, whoa! And they get right up and they start enjoying it. So I'm like, oh my God,
that's what we call curveballs too, especially if it's something that's not natural for us to know. And that's something that we discuss with our clients. We're like, we need to know certain things from you that we may not know naturally. And a lot of the times that may be, hey, we're big baseball fans. Hey, we're this, and that actually can relate to music. You know, listen, if you're a big Yankees fan, or you're in New York, and I play the YMCA, and you're a diehard Yankees fan, you are more likely to enjoy the YMCA.
Mets.
Why? Oh, sorry. Why? But the reason why is because 7th inning stretch, what do? They do the YMCA. Yeah. Right?
Or for Mets fans, it's Narco.
Yeah, I mean, well, that too. Narco by Blaster Jackson, Timmy Trumpet, or let's just say you're a Rangers fan. One of the things I used to do for Rangers, big Rangers fans, I play the Rangers scoring goal as one of the last songs of the night, and people lose their stuff. And it's understanding the people that allows you to determine the success of your wedding, which also goes by to one of the reasons why I want to talk about this is a big thing. People ask me all the time what makes or breaks a great wedding. It's the people. It is. The number one thing that matters to your wedding is your guest list. It's not the venue, it's not your DJ, it's not photography, it's not the band, it's not any of that nonsense. It is your guest list, okay? Because when people think like you, they're gonna more likely celebrate like you, all right? So for example, let's say you have 300 people at a wedding.
Okay.
And out of the 300 people, 200 of them are over the age of 45, okay? And let's just say you're a 25-year-old couple getting married.
Right.
That's a 20-year difference. That's a massive difference in regards to musical tastes in the realm of entertainment.
Right.
Because the younger crowd most likely is going to like the music that you listen to. And then you have your family members who are completely disconnected from that section of music. Yep. So if you want an overall successful event, you got to make everybody in attendance feel like they're thought of. And if you just invite anybody, they're less likely to get up because it's a disingenuous act on their behalf.
Correct.
Like, they don't want to get up because they don't care.
Correct. Right? And it's not their I don't think it's totally their fault. I think they just don't have an emotional attachment or connection or charge to the relationship that you share because they're not as close with you. For instance,
It's
like
true.
my girlfriend, we are going to a wedding in August. I told you earlier, and she says, "Patrick, we're not leaving that dance floor. It's my best friend." That line stuck with me. I said, "Wow, of course it's going to be the best friends that stay on the dance floor." My fraternity brother Morgan got married. We didn't leave that dance floor for him because it was him. I love Morgan to death.
Especially if it's a track you guys in your fraternity like.
That's a fraternity thing too. But I think that holds true where if I went to a second cousin's wedding, no disrespect to my second cousin, I don't know mostly everyone there or third cousin. So I'm just going to be a bit more off to the side. Maybe with my partner, I'm going to stay with them. So I think it's really thinking about how your entire guest count's going to blend too altogether is a huge point.
Well, I also think that think of it this way, right? When you get invited to a wedding, two thoughts register in your mind. Oh, I can't wait for this. Or, oh, crap.
Yeah, that's
It's like,
that's very relatable. That's very relatable.
I got to go to this. Now, why? Because you feel obligated. Now, that could be due to family pressure. That could be due to, oh, they came to your wedding. Like, there are a lot of different reasons. But I always say with a guest list, you want to make it as if like you are trying to get into Studio 54 in the 80s. Like it's got to be the event of the year, and you got to treat it as such because it is, dude. It is. Like if I'm going to invite somebody, I want to invite people who genuinely will say to me, "I can't wait for your wedding," and mean it. Okay, I'm not talking about like your second. Like you're talking about second cousins. One of the things that drive me nuts when parents invite coworkers. Why?
The parents of the.
Why?
I know.
Why? Because I guarantee you that person would not be offended if they were not invited.
I know.
Okay? It's a miscalculation.
Unless there's a cultural significance to inviting certain people, then fine, there's an exception to that.
But that's few and far in between. Look, where I'm getting at is most people don't genuinely understand what it takes to actually be a guest anymore because they're like, okay, well, it's expensive. Yeah. It's also could be out of your way. It could be a Saturday that listen, sometimes if you're doing a destination event, when I say destination event, that your guests have to travel over an hour, which means they got to stay. That means they got to pay for a hotel room. They got to give you a gift. They got to possibly get a sitter if they have kids. There are other obligations that you have to take into consideration. It is a commitment. And sometimes if those people, I should say, don't genuinely look forward to your wedding, you think they're going to just go celebrate? No. Yeah. No, you're better off having 150 people out of the 300 that genuinely want to show up to your wedding, have a great time, and party than the people who are being invited due to some form of connection with a family member or somebody else.
I agree. With kids and adults, it's the same. I've asked people, why didn't you enjoy that wedding so much? I didn't know a lot of people either. It's true. And if they feel disconnected, it's definitely going to be there.
There's a big problem with it. And I think that, quite frankly, you need to really think about your guest list before you think about anything else. Yep. Understand,
very important.
Hammer down your guest list. Please, for the love of everything else, hammer down your guest list. Don't just invite anybody else because you'll get more people to dance when they want to celebrate you. They really do.
With that said, John, because we're talking about guest lists and crowds and them showing up and being there to support you. Is there such thing as a bad crowd at a wedding?
Yes.
Okay. Explain.
There are some crowds that there are different angles to this, right? We talked about the people who don't want to be there because of obligation to be there. That's one crowd.
That's one.
The other crowd is like, some of them are just naturally shy. Mm-hmm. That's not a bad crowd, in my opinion. You just got to tweak and understand what gets them to celebrate. Because there are some people who love to dance. There are some people who like to do karaoke. There are some people who enjoy going to a sports bar, right? To drink and have fun and hang out with friends. Mm-hmm. Some people enjoy the luxurious style of entertainment. Like some people like Broadway. Some people like, Circus Olay or you name it. But entertainment to people varies. What so many people make the mistake of is they think that it's a one-size-fit-all for entertainment.
Correct.
That is not the case.
Correct.
So the first thing you got to understand is okay, what do I want for a celebration? Do I want people going balls to the wall, going absolutely nuts? I want to crowd surf. I want to drink and get drunk. I want to just go crazy. There's that side of people. Then there are other people who are like, we're more sing-along crowds. We're more elegant, if you will. We like the decor, and we like the going into an experience type of crowd.
Yep.
That's different. You have just marathon dancers where they don't get crazy, that they just dance. Europeans are much like that. Like, especially if you go to like Ibiza and stuff like that, instead of getting completely turned up, it's like a steady incline of just like awesomeness for like 8, 10, 12 hours of drinking, vibing, two-stepping, freaking doing all different types of Latin dances.
Regional standards.
Yeah, it's a major, major difference. And understanding what you want in your entertainment is ultimately going to determine how your entertainment's going to perform. And it's also going to help you find out what they want. So I always tell my clients or people who are looking to book, do not be shy about what you want. Explain your vision in detail. Don't just say, oh, we want everybody dancing. How do you want them dancing? Do you want the crowd surfing crowd? Are you metalheads? Are you 2000s alternative rock? Are you EDM? Like, what is it?
I think there's a level of from the client, the couple's perspective or on their side, a level of awareness you have to have about your crowd.
Yes.
You can't lie and say, oh, we're crazy. I hear that all the time. We're crazy. My family, we like to party. Yeah. I'm not going to tell you, though, that we are the crowd surfing crowd. We have maybe 2 or 3 people in my family or my group that have people I'd invite to my wedding that would. And I have to consider that when I'm being honest with you so that you're informed and prepared. Because nothing's worse than going to a wedding thinking this is supposed to be at a crazy party, and then all of a sudden there's a disconnect, something you're not seeing, or they're a great crowd, they're actually dancing, but they're not as wild as you thought they'd be. I think that's also another misconception is just because they're not going wild doesn't mean they're not having a good time. You said that earlier. Yeah. It depends how they express themselves. People go.
You would be. I don't mean to cut you off, but you'd be amazed how many people would be sitting down when you play Gasolina. Yeah. And then get up to Come On Eileen.
Yeah, or Uptown Funk or something.
Right. Yeah. But I'm serious. It's a huge, or they get down to, you know, Jax or Hugel or John Summit, but then they'll sit down for Beyonce.
Yeah.
You know, it's a huge difference in understanding your crowd and being able, as a private entertainer, to cater to everybody is an art form. It's a skill. It's a muscle that has to be consistently worked on. And it's not something you get good at overnight. And it's important for you guys as consumers to make sure that you educate your potential entertainers to say, this is what I want. Show me you could deliver it. How many times have you delivered it? And articulately explain to me the process of which you would do that. And if they can't do that, I'm telling you, don't book them. Don't do it. If they don't have a track record, save your money. Because the ones that are great at it, they might be more expensive. Most likely they are. But I'd rather you spend $4,000 on a $40,000 budget than $400 on a $40,000 budget and look at the massive difference of the result. Because I promise you, there is a difference. It's a massive difference.
People are not going to care about how the chicken tasted or at the end of the... They're not going to remember, I should say, how the chicken tasted or the decorum on the... They're going to remember how they felt, you know? And this, I have to be careful also of I don't mean to shine a bad light on when I said decorum, the floral work, and that stuff's beautiful because that also creates an aesthetic, a feeling of when you're going to a room. So I don't want to discount that. But the feeling you felt, the fun you felt on that dance floor is extremely important, and you're going to want them to feel that as well.
Well, it also has to do with, you kind of mentioned about decorum and in that portion of it. We're big believers that emotion creates motion. From the time people walk into where you're getting married for your ceremony to the very last song, everything has to match in order to create the experience that you want your guests to have. And I think that one of the biggest things that you have to do is almost create a vision board, if you will, and say, hey, from this point to this point, I want X, Y, and Z to happen. Yep. How do I start with A, B, and C? Because your end result is here. How do I start from there? One of the biggest ones, which we also talked about, is your floor plan.
Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah. Okay. So let's people make sure you get a floor plan.
Get a floor plan.
Talk to your venue, and make sure that you don't just get an idea based on what your venue recommends, because unless your venue is handling all people working your event,
Correct.
they don't know what you're doing. Unless you are absolutely on top of them, they are only going to base it off of the guest count, the amount of plates that they're serving, and maybe your decorator or your florist. That's it. But when you have a DJ, don't put grandma and grandpa next to the DJ. Don't do it. It's a bad idea. They have pacemakers, and pacemakers can break.
Yep.
Not good. There's something called subwoofers. They create that big booming effect. And imagine grandpa doing this
Yep.
while he's having his steak.
Or grandma's hair falling out due to the bass.
Toupee, yeah. No, but seriously, so one of my biggest icks. Did I just say icks?
You did.
One of the biggest pet peeves I have is when they put tables on top of or next to the DJ.
Yeah.
Bad idea. Bad idea. If you need more room, work on that. But you got to push people back, because dining time is one of those moments when you talked about peaks and valleys. People need to recharge. You have a battery, and that battery is more likely to do sprints than it is to do a marathon. And if you just hit them with consistent music, too loud, too long, it becomes uncomfortable.
Burn 'em out.
It burns them out, and then they don't want to celebrate. And now you have one of those results that you don't want to have. And in my opinion, going over your floor plan with your DJ, your photographer, your decorator, your florist, these are all mandatory things you have to do. Mm-hmm. Mandatory things that you have to do. I know recently you've had that issue where the DJ was far from the dance floor. Not cool. What? Tell me about that experience. What happened with that?
So, well, obviously we fixed it.
Yeah.
Because when I was, doing this in the beginning of my career, I didn't know anything about floor plans or the proper configuration of where a DJ should be placed. So I was doing an event one time, and we received the floor plan, and I said, sure, no problem. We're just going to amplify the music and make sure people have a good time. So doing the event, and we're performing, and we do a sound check, and guests are walking into the main ballroom, and the reception's about to start, and we're playing the music at an appropriate volume level because it's just background music for guests to arrive. And as soon as we start the welcome and introductions, and we bring the music up, and we get people dancing, I started getting some complaints to the DJ. Could you bring it down? It's like way too loud, but right here, we're sitting down. So to give you an understanding of where the DJ was now, I'll tell you, the DJ was in a corner of the room. The dance floor was right where you guys are. Just think about the cameras right here. The dance floor is right over there. DJ's right here. There are tables in front of the DJ, and the dance floor is right in front of the tables.
No.
So the music was amplifying the loudest, actually not even on the dance floor, right by the tables. And who was sitting at the tables? Well, it was the immediate family, grandparents, cousins, the older crowd. And to no fault of their own, they were bothered by the music. I hear you. That you should not be, the music should not be, it's not their fault. What was the fault was poor planning. We didn't do a floor plan beforehand. And the DJ now had to lower the music for the entirety of the night,
which ruined the performance.
Which ruined the performance and ruined the dance atmosphere. So what I do now, moving forward, this was years ago, obviously, but what I do now, moving forward, I always demand a floor plan 30 days before my events. I get one, and if I don't see it's up to par with what we know works best, we change it up.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
more often than not, venues are more than accommodating. With ample time. Well,
that's the thing. What we do is something called a site survey, where about 6-7 weeks prior, we might go over to the venue if we're not familiar with the location, and we show them, hey, listen, this is what we're thinking about doing. This is what we're bringing. This is the aesthetics we want to accomplish. And the client's aware of this. They usually come with us. And it's one of those things where we encourage everybody to do this, because executing this beforehand leaves room for no surprises.
Right. Correct.
The day of your wedding. And trust me when I tell you, from being a groom, you don't want surprises on your wedding day. Nope. It's not fun. You don't want to put out fires. You don't want to have to answer questions. You just want to enjoy your day. Correct. So for us, we take that into consideration when we're building out your event, because it's incredibly important to understand how executable are your visions? How can we do this in the best, easiest way possible? And it's also good for your venue, because if the venue doesn't have to worry about it, they just get to do their thing. They get to work on the food, they get to work on the drinks, they get to work on making the best hospitality experience for your guests, and we get to perform. Your photographers know where they have to be, where the best aesthetics are for photos. These are all things that come into play when you talk about a floor plan. And when you ignore a floor plan, you get nightmare situations. And these are not things you want to happen on your wedding day.
And think about that. All that money you put in.
Oh,
You didn't even get the result you wanted.
Yeah, you're
just
throwing it
because of
away.
a floor plan. So, like, please, 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 please. I hope your entertainment company, they're not just yes people. And they don't just say, okay, fine. Where they'll speak up and tell you, that's not going to work. Here's why it's not going to work.
Dude, I know so many DJs who yes them to death. So go figure, the people that usually yes them to death are usually the ones who don't have the most amount of work.
Correct.
That's crazy.
Correct.
So you would think the opposite. You're like, oh, if they say yes to everything, they should be getting booked a lot. No, they don't. Why? Because majority of the time when they say yes to everybody, they usually end up with worse
Results.
events, worse results, which then in turn doesn't give them more clients calling them.
Yep.
And my advice to professionals is that be a professional. If you know something's wrong or it goes against your experiences that have worked in the past,
Please speak up.
say something.
Please
Speak
speak
up.
up.
Don't just cater to the client because you want a paycheck. That's a massive mistake. And it's not good for your client either. It's not the right thing to do. You're better off not taking the job if you don't believe in that and letting the client walk, than put your reputation in that line and put the client's wants and needs at risk. It's not worth it. It's not worth it.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things for us. Like, we rather you guys work with us personally, and if we vibe, you're gonna love what we do. The organization, the experience, everything in between there. It's something that we pride ourselves on. And for me, it's like my clients are a reflection of me.
Yeah.
I actually talked about this too. Like, I don't know if you agree with this. I'm sure you do. I mean, we pretty much see eye to eye on this, but I feel like my clients are an exact mirror vision of me. Let me rephrase it. My clients and I have the exact same vision on how to execute an awesome wedding.
Correct.
And I think the reason why it's like that is because if I see your wedding this way and you want it the same way, then now we open a dialogue and how do we achieve that? And then when you take my experience and my tools and how I can execute it perfectly, then we got dynamics. Then when you look at all my videos and you see packed dance floors, it shouldn't surprise you that this is why it's happening, right? Versus the person who gives you a piece of paper, like a Microsoft Word document, and says, fill this out and I'll call you like 3 weeks prior. Dude.
Brace yourself. Brace yourself.
Dude,
Brace yourself.
So can I tell you a personal story?
Please do.
I had a DJ colleague of mine who literally told me he was doing contracts on Photoshop. Yeah. Yes. Isn't that nuts? Like, he was so he had a contract made up, and so let me backtrack this. He actually had a legitimate contract, but he was editing the contract in Photoshop, rearranging the names of the clientele, adding it one by one, like doing all these other things. So I asked him, I was like, how long does it take you to send out a contract? He goes, oh, it takes me about an hour. I go, what? What? I was like, an hour?
It takes us 10 seconds.
Literally, it takes us on average.
Not 10 seconds.
No. It's pretty close actually. So when we put it together, I think a total of about 30 seconds, we can have a contract ready to go with all the information the client
Efficient, not just
and sent to them immediately for them to sign, and sent with a payment link so they could just go ahead and secure it. Imagine the peace of mind of that. Right? Which is another thing we talked about too. If you have an entertainer that doesn't send you any form of paperwork to lock them in for your date, you don't have an entertainer.
Tell them why, John.
Because they're not professionals. And most of the time...
Well, tell them why, like, if you don't have something in writing, what could happen?
Oh, so many things. Most agreements are actually not only to protect the entertainer. That's a big misunderstanding. Yeah. A lot of people think that the contract is to trap the client. It's not. It's actually to put more responsibility
affirmation on
the entertainer. Yeah. You want certain things in writing to guarantee their performance is exactly what they promise you, and you have legal binding contracts that allow you to say if they did not perform this, that you have the right to certain monies or anything of that nature.
Legally, they don't have to show up.
Yeah, they don't. Legally,
I've actually had that happen. Not that they obviously gave advance notice, but they said, "Sorry, can't do your party now," and they just.
Oh yeah, I've had
oh my
that
God.
answers.
My client was like, "Pat," I said, "Should have went with one of my DJs, but come on down." She's like, "Wait, I'll take your DJ now." I said, "Yes, please, thank you so much."
It's a major. It's a
Crazy.
Major problem. It's a major problem. It's actually one of those things that I tell people all the time. Don't underestimate the importance of professionals because they're the ones who are going to save you more money than they are to cost you more money. We also wanted this podcast to not just us be like talking randomly. We also wanted to give you guys some actionable takes. Hopefully you guys will get some of that out of this podcast. But one of the things we want to do is have a little bit of fun. We're DJs, we're entertainers, and we wanted to actually do like a little snippet of like tracks that we think might be useful for up and coming couples.
Correct.
So we decided we want to put together our favorite first dance tracks that are rarely used and they're not country oriented.
Correct.
Okay. So it's the reason why we decided to do this is because we always get the time, we don't like country, we don't know what to choose. So I was like, let's put something together that people could use. And the best part is if you're one of our clients and you're interested in using this, we're putting this into your online portal. All you got to do is go to the ideas section and you'll be able to see this list and possibly use it for your own wedding. So we have quite a few of them. I think we're going to start with your list.
Yeah, and you can do all 5. Just do one of those. The other.
Let's start with this one. This is a Bradley Marshall track. And tell me.
Okay, for this one, I don't have much context on.
Okay.
It's simply just, I think the song's beautiful and I haven't heard it played yet at a wedding.
All right. So this is called
Enough.
Perfect for Me by Bradley Marshall. Let's take a listen.
Let go. I'll be a light when you can't seem to find it. Lie on my shoulder when you feel like crying. You say you're not perfect, but there's no denying you've always been perfect for me. And there's not a thing in this world you can't tell me. Cause I'll take the weight if it all gets too heavy. And say you're not worth it, but darling, you're perfect. You've always been perfect for me.
That's a number 5 for me. I just like how he sings. It's still very in the cute, cutesy first dance vibe. So
I've heard of that track before, but you're right. I've never heard it as a
first dance song.
right. And that's when I'm like, okay, you know what? That's unique. So that was actually one of the prerequisites. We were like, okay, we want tracks that people don't use that often because it's like people always like, I want my first dance to be different. I don't want to use an everyday track. I don't want to use like Ed Sheeran tracks or things of that nature.
Correct.
We get that.
Correct.
So we were like, all right, let's kind of dig in and let's see if we could use some of our own personal things to see if it resonates with you guys and tell me what you guys think. But I'm going to start with my number 5. This one is a story that I actually proposed to my wife 5 days before a wedding in Aruba that I was performing. And this was the song for the bride and groom. Shout out to Daniel and Rebecca. I love you guys. This is amazing. This is actually the acoustic version of the track by Tom Walker. It's called Just You and I.
And I know I can tell you anything. You won't judge, you're just listening. Yeah. Cause you're the best thing that ever happened to me. Cause my darling, you and I can take over the world. And one step at a time, just you and I. Just you and I.
Yeah.
Cause you're the only one.
Such a good song.
Brings light just like the
It's nice and light.
It is.
You know,
That's
it's
a good way
like
to describe it.
tropical.
Yeah,
Like,
that's a
this
good-
is so sweet. We did it,
That's-
baby.
That's a good way to. I like that. It's light, and I like that because again, it's something that you don't want everybody to use, and it's one of those tracks that's very sentimental without it being cheesy. And that's another thing about first dance songs. Some of them are they're just cheesy.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like, they're
and
corny.
some people like that. So my number 5 was kind of on that cheesy route because some people still do appreciate that. This one, so most of the songs that I recommend, actually that you'll see in my list, I've heard at weddings or haven't heard yet, but still they make me cry. This song, shout out to Liz and Sean, their wedding. This is I heard last year at a wedding I did, haven't heard it since, by Dermot Kennedy. You'll say the song, John.
Yeah.
And I heard it, listened to the lyrics, the instrumentals, and I cried. I thought it was just beautiful.
Well, this is Dermot Kennedy's Dreamer. Yeah. And this is Patrick's number 4. Let's take a listen.
It's easy days, and I can't keep the rain away. Ain't got a song to sing without your loving. Isn't that worth something? I might show up a little late. I'll try to learn from my mistakes. Ain't got a song to sing without your loving. Yeah, isn't that worth something?
I think it's not idealistic. It's very like, hey, listen, I'm gonna screw up a lot.
Yeah.
Hey, honey.
Yeah.
I'm gonna mess up big time.
Well, it's also honest with.
It's honest, yeah.
With the message, which is also important because I
Yeah.
feel like it's
Lyrics are important in a first dance song.
It is, and I feel like it's one of those things where if you know what you're trying to say in the song, it also translates into the dance. Because one of the first things about first dances is that it's such a sentimental moment for everybody to witness. And
Right.
if it's not impactful for you and your spouse, it's going to kind of get lost on people.
Yeah.
And that's where it's like it should be impactful, not
Yes.
just for you guys, but for everybody watching, to make them feel how you feel.
Yeah.
And that's why like certain songs like that really can resonate if you guys resonate with it.
Yes. I can't. Yeah, you're so right. That's actually a good point.
Which is also why I wanted to go with this one, because this is for my millennials. This is for my people. But it's also a track from a band that, you know, they're fanatics out there. Not that I'm a fanatic of theirs, but like I actually remember this is one of the tracks that I actually enjoyed from them, and it is by One Direction. This one's Little Things. Enjoy.
I won't let these little things slip out of my mouth. But if I do, it's you. Oh, it's you they add up to.
Yes.
I'm in love with you. And all these little things.
One of the reasons why I also like this track is because if you listen to the lyrics and totality, it also talks about the imperfections that you fall in love with. And trust me, being married, you have to fall in love with imperfections because that's what makes it perfect to you. I know that sounds very corny, but it's true. It's the little things that not you tolerate, but you cherish.
True.
And that's one of the reasons why I chose that track. And it's one of those tracks you don't hear that often. So it's definitely something you guys should consider, especially if you're, like me, who graduated high school in, the late 2000s, and you're just like, okay, this resonates with me. Some nostalgia to it. Now, this is your number 3. This is
Runaway by Ben Platt. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm going to be completely honest with you. I haven't heard this as a first dance song yet.
Okay.
I just love Ben Platt, of how vocal, like his voice. Any Ben Platt fans know when it's a song sung by him, you're like, oh my God. So he's just awesome. And I like this song specifically because you're not going to hear it now. You're not going to encapsulate now. But every verse, aside from the chorus, actually covers like a story, parts of a story, until you get to the end. So I think it encourages you to keep listening and finding out what happens next, which is why I love Runaway so much.
all right. So let's take a listen.
John Boy,
let's
play
take
it.
a listen. This is Ben Platt. Runaway.
Runaway.
I may not be wise, and I won't save the day, but look in my eyes and know I'll always stay, and I won't run away.
That's nice.
I won't run away.
It's very much almost like Irish pub sounding.
Yeah, like it's an Irish part.
Yeah, it's almost Ed Sheeran-esque, right?
Yeah.
And I gotta say, it is nice though. It's very soothing, and I feel like this definitely with the right crowd. I picture this with hear me out. This is what I picture it with. Ready? A groom in a brown suit with like a flowery color, with not a white, but more like a beige dress.
Okay.
And they're like they're almost like waltzing to this. That's what I hear when I hear this track.
Yeah.
And it's something
definitely
that,
particular. It's not for that song's not for everyone.
It is, but no, but it's not supposed to be for everybody.
Exactly.
That's why First Dance is so major, is because it's really for you guys.
That's actually the true good test of a first dance song.
Yeah.
When you've only heard it at one wedding.
Right.
Bam,
Big,
John.
Big, tall tale of it. Trust me. My next one is so when I think of first dances, I think of tracks that are known by everybody, but told in a different light.
Yep.
And it's something that's going to allow everybody to enjoy it, but make it unique to you guys.
Correct.
So for me, I wanted to do a Snow Patrol track by a cover band called Boyce Avenue. If you're not familiar with them, they are outstanding. All right. The lead singer, his voice is an angel. I'm pretty sure he's like
An angel.
an angel.
Probably.
But I wanted this track because it's something that everybody knows, but it's told in a different story, and lyrically it makes a lot of sense. So this is Chasing Cars by Snow Patrol, the Boyce Avenue cover.
Yay.
If I lay here, if I just lay here, would you lie with me and just forget the world?
Oh, come on. Like, this is a rainy day cuddle song.
Yeah.
And
Don't
it's one of the things where like everybody can like take out their phones and like go side to side
Dancing on
with,
clouds.
with the light on.
This is a dancing on clouds.
Oh
moment.
yeah, 100%.
This is like
100%. And it's such a beautiful song
It
to
is.
begin with, even the original by Snow Patrol. But this one just is like, okay, this screams First Dance.
But we talked about this too. We said it's best if you're going to play a really popular love song, right? Like Perfect by Ed Sheeran, let's say. I'm not saying to do that, but if you're going to at least make it a cover, make it a unique,
Make it
original
more
sounding
unique.
cover.
Yeah, tell a story with it.
Yeah, I think
I think that's a huge deal. We're up to your number two. This is number two for you.
Okay.
This is. I got to listen to this earlier, and I have to say
Yeah.
this might be one of my favorite ones that you've shown me. Tell me a little bit about this track.
So this is for the couples that don't want a slow, deep, sentimental, when I say sentimental, of course you want it sentimental, but they don't want something too, help me out, John,
Monotonous.
emotional.
Yeah.
They want something a little fun because they're a fun couple, right?
Yeah.
And they sometimes couples will tell me, Patrick, we don't want a first dance because we don't want it too sappy. This is a song for you because it's fun. It's like a little upbeat. It's cute, and you can have a little,
It's
your
definitely
girl.
something you could be silly to.
Yeah,
That's what I like about it. This is called The Mates of Soul by Taylor John Williams.
What a name.
Said I'll never be leading the mates of soul, and so I never once claimed that I know that you're the only,
Wait for it.
Yeah, it's coming
only one for me.
out. I feel that pickup coming. Here we go.
Honey, honey,
I love
do
that.
you see I'm gunning?
Like, this is like when people are like,
Yeah, it's
clap.
a
Aiming at
sway side to side.
Yeah.
Everybody. Bob
just like, freaking did it, baby.
Fingers
We're
snapping.
married.
Fingers snapping.
They say to stay together,
I love it. I
I
love it.
love this. Yeah.
promise to forever.
It's also it's also one of those tracks that allows you to set the tone for the party. That if you're that couple that doesn't take themselves too seriously and they want everybody to enjoy themselves, this is a perfect opportunity for you to share that sentiment with everybody just from your first dance.
Yeah.
Kick it off in that direction because trust me, it's a major tall tale. I love it. I applaud you because I've never heard that song before, and it's going to be something I'm going to recommend going forward. My next track is something that I've referred to so many times. It's by a British artist named Conor Maynard. He's notoriously known for a lot of his covers that he did in the late thousands, early 2010s, and he blew up, like his YouTube blew up, and he's incredible vocalist. You could hear when he sings that it's almost like he's bleeding his soul into every performance that he does, and it's so obvious. And this track is called Crowded Room. I encourage anybody to watch the music video to this and you'll understand why it's such an amazing and adorable track, but also the lyrics are just, it's a beautiful, beautiful lyric. So take a listen. This is Connor Maynard, Crowded Room.
I'm standing in a crowded room, but it doesn't change that all I see is you. I swear that you're perfect. I don't deserve this a night with you, night with you. Oh, I'm standing in a crowded room. If heaven's a place, then it was made for two. I swear that you're perfect. I don't deserve this a night with you, but I love to spend my life with you.
I love the rasp.
I swear if
Yeah, I know. It's
That gets you.
yeah, it really does.
That gets you.
I gotta say that I've only had maybe 2 or 3 people use this track, and you could feel almost like goosebumps when people watch it. It's good. Yeah, dude, it's a goosebump type track. And normally it would be my number 1, but my number 1 is more nostalgic.
Yeah.
We'll get to that in a minute. Let's talk about your number 1.
Okay, so el mio numero uno is this song that's about to be played. I'll tell you why. I was at a wedding in Maryland. I was assisting. I wasn't the MC for it. Aldo was the MC. You guys will meet Aldo soon on one of our podcast episodes. And this song, when it started playing, it's from Caleb Scott, who is a very well-known, renowned singer. When it started to play, every single person in the room was crying, welling up with tears. Dad, mom, guests, all together, including the bride and groom. I think that's what did it to people. And
Yeah,
you
when they see
mentioned that
it,
point.
yeah.
When you see the bride and groom
Get into it.
so into it, it sets the tone for a first dance song.
Absolutely.
And that was that moment. So it's the song, of course, that helped contribute to it tremendously. I was crying. I was crying so much, not like, hyperventilating crying, but I was crying so much where there were some responsibilities I had to have taken care of during the first dance to help the MC prepare for the next series of events that I had not accomplished because I was so in the moment and watching that. He said, "Pat, did you figure that?" I go, "No." He goes, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I was just watching this." It was beautiful.
Yeah.
So this is my number 1, Biblical by Caleb Scott.
found me, well, I don't wanna see. So won't you give me tonight and the rest of your love? I wanna have it all with you. I wanna have it all with you. And when you open your eyes, I'll be there by your side. I wanna have it all with you. I wanna have it all with you. 'Cause your love is biblical. Biblical.
That's so good. Dude.
And this had the custom edit, which we'll obviously say one day. I mean, we could say it's quick. It's just, you coming down to our studio and we have a conversation about, why you love that person, why you love your partner, why you can't wait to get married to this person. And we take the best of what you said in the conversation that we had about you, about your partner, and we put it actually into the song. And John actually is the master at this, of actually editing it properly. We'll show you some samples another time. And this song had it. So it was too much.
Yeah. And now for my final number 1 track, I wanted to do something that was nostalgic to me. And I got into this track fairly recently because this guy got blown up on TikTok. He does covers of originally Disney tracks, and then he started doing other tracks that are super popular to the millennial age. And he started making them into more acoustic love songs.
Okay.
This is Brent Morgan recreating Cascadas, Every Time We Touch. So this is it. This is my number 1.
Yeah,
Forgive me my weakness, but I don't know why. Without you, it's hard to survive. 'Cause every time we touch, I get this feeling. And every time we kiss, I swear I could fly.
Yes.
Can't you feel my heart beat fast? I want this to last. Need you by my side.
I was like,
'Cause
oh.
every time we touch,
And it's just like, I always like think this is a great way to start the wedding.
Yep.
And then how dope would it be for this to be the last song of the wedding, the original Cascada, Every Time We Touch, where it's just like everybody going buck wild for like the last like 5 minutes of the party.
Cherry on top.
Yeah, that's the cherry on top. And I was like, all right, that's got to be number one, because Conor Maynard would have been my number one choice. But then when I heard this, I'm like, yeah, this is a no-brainer for me.
Awesome.
Yeah, man.
Beautiful.
So hopefully, guys, you found this useful and entertaining. Like I said, if you're one of our clients on your online portal, this is going to be put into the ideas section. Just simply go to First Dance Ideas, and you'll be able to see this list. And I think we're going to continuously add more to this. This was a lot of fun for us. I think definitely this is going to be something we're going to do.
I'm excited.
This is our first podcast. Hopefully, you guys found this interesting, educational, entertaining. We're going to be doing this quite often. We actually have a couple of people that are going to be coming on that hopefully entertain you as well. I will tell you that this is a dream come true for us. We really wanted to send this out to a lot of different people. So it would mean the world if you guys subscribe and follow and hit the little like and subscribe button, whichever way you can. And hopefully in the comments, you guys will tell us what you guys want us to talk about, how we could help you. And if you're still looking for wedding entertainment or any type of entertainment for a private event, you consider calling us. I'm John Devine.
I'm Patrick Soldi.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We will see you next time.